In this assignment, we're going to take a look at placing tags, room, door, and window tags, and creating schedules. And then we'll take a look at text, creating sections, and working on the sheets. So let's start by using a Revit file that has at least a couple of rooms in it. This is the ceiling plan that we left off with in the last project, but we could actually just go ahead and go to the level 1, and like I said, if you have a plan that has at least 3 rooms in it and a couple of doors, we can start to place our tags. We did this a little bit when we looked at the color-coded floor plan. We went up here to room, and then you can click inside the room and start to develop here a title for each space, and you can see that this X represents the space. Then when you select here the room and then select it again, you can change the room name. Maybe we just call these office 1, whatever you'd like to call them. We're going to create here a schedule of these rooms and the information that comes with them. And the schedule will be linked to the elements in the plan, floor plan, so that when we change information on the plan, it will update in the schedule. Before we create the schedule, select one of your room tags here so that you can see the X, and look in the properties. You can see that there's a floor finish, a wall finish that we can type in, so we can have here in the identity data here information about that room. So I'll use my escape key to get out of there. And now if we go to the View tab, we can go under Schedules and pick Schedule Quantities. In here under the new schedule, we can scroll down to Rooms and highlight Rooms. And then under the name, we're going to add Finish. So Room Finish Schedule, and pick OK. And then this is where we decide on which fields to use, which are going to be representing the columns. So here we might want the room number, so we'll highlight number and pick add. The room name, I'll highlight name and pick add. Possibly then the floor finish, and sometimes the base finish, depending on if this is a residential or commercial project. And really, this is a schedule that can have whatever fields you'd like as you add parameters. So these are parameters that are available fields that come with the software, but you can create your own. Maybe we'll highlight ceiling finish and area, and I always have a column called comments at the end. Now if we wanted to, we could actually add more fields. So we might want to create here a parameter. Go ahead and click add parameter. That might be called north, so that you can break it down to the different wall finishes. And if you type in north for the name, but the type of parameter here in this drop down is going to be text, and then it will put it under the group parameter text and create in the properties another section. So it's up to you whether you want to put it in another panel called text, or if you want to put it in the identity data along with the other data that's there. So I'll just go ahead and leave it as text so that I can show you the difference. Go ahead and pick OK, and we'll create another one for the east. Change the type of parameter to text, and we want to pick, and then the group parameter, it goes under by default text. Pick OK, and continue then here with another one called south. Type of parameter is going to be text, and here west. And because I want to put these up after the base finish as part of the wall finish, I'm going to highlight north and then pick move up. And I'm going to move it up just before the base finish, between the base finish and the ceiling finish. The same thing with east. So I'll highlight east and move that up here, and south and west. Just so you can see that you can add parameters for individual columns and you can move them up and down within this list. So we have between the base finish and the ceiling finish, we have north, east, south, and west to describe the wall finish, and we're going to create a heading for that in a little bit. You can format the different fields. If you highlight area, you can change the alignment to right so that the numbers will will align to the right side. There are also graphics that you can change if you wanted the grid lines to be a different line type, or the text to be different than Arial. So let's go ahead and pick OK. And now you've created this room finish schedule. If you hold your left mouse button down on north, right here, and drag your mouse across north, east, south, and west, you can pick the icon called group. And what it does is it creates here a group for those columns and gives you this cell up above that can be the title here, wall finish. So I'm able to then highlight these for pick group and then type in this cell wall finish. And just like other programs, you have here the lines of the columns that you can adjust as you rest your pointer on that line and hold your left mouse button down. You can adjust those columns. And so even after you create your schedule, you can go under properties and formatting and pick edit. And if you want the number, the room number, to be centered, then you can highlight number here and change the alignment to center. And when I pick OK, the numbers will be aligned in the center. So now if we go back to the View tab, just to show you that one way of looking at two drawings is to go to the View tab and click on Tile here. But if you rest your pointer on Tile, you'll see that there is also a quick key, which is WT. Some of the menus have those quick keys for you. So I'll just go ahead and close out of these drawings that I don't need. When you type in WT, you can see that it will tile the windows. So you can see both of them at the same time. So now if I highlight one of my rooms, I can see that the identity data is here, and I have in my text the north, east, south, and where did the west go? West ended up in dimensions. So now in order to fix that, I can go over to my schedule and fix it afterwards, right? So I can go under properties and click on here, edit next to fields. If you click on west, you can click edit and change the group parameter, which I need to do, to text. So when you were creating here the parameters, I didn't have this one as text and it ended up in a different panel. So go ahead and pick OK and OK. And now when I go back into my floor plan and select here the room tag, you see how the west actually came out from the dimensions area and went into the text fields. So even after you've placed your tag or your schedule, you can change the properties and some of the settings. So if, for instance, I didn't want to call this here Office 1, but I wanted to call it Office 1A as an example, when I change here that room number and I open up my column a little bit further here, I'll see that it's been changed to 1A. So now you have a choice of filling in the information in the room finish schedule here, or selecting the room and using properties to type it in. When I select here the floor finish for Office 2, Office 2 is highlighted, so it shows me which room it is that I'm changing. So go ahead and just fill out a couple of floor finishes. And now let's take a look at tagging the doors. Earlier in this project, we turned off the door tags. So if you type in VG, you can go to Annotation Categories tab and notice that in this column, the door tags is unchecked. So I'll go ahead and check door tags and pick OK. And you'll see that at least this one is tagged from the beginning. So now if yours are tagged, then you'll see the door tags depending on if you use this project or you just created a new one. So if you didn't have door tags, you could either tag each one individually by tagging here by category, or you could click on Tag All and highlight Door Tag, pick Apply, and you see they're already all tagged, and then pick OK. And so now the doors are tagged and ready for a schedule. So we can go to the View tab, back to Schedules and Schedule Quantities, and then look for doors for the door schedule. So highlight doors and pick OK. And in the same way, we can use fields to create a door schedule. Now, most door schedules look pretty much the same, with the exception of a few columns, and it depends on whether, again, you're working with residential or commercial. And when you think about it, these schedules can be based on whatever titles you'd like to make them, and whatever fields based on these parameters. So if you had a individual schedule of information that you'd like to work on for a project, you could tweak this dialog box to work for whatever text information you need. So here in this door schedule, the mark will be the number of that door. So I'll highlight mark and click on add, and then maybe we would want to know the width. So highlight width and pick add, and the height, and most of the time here we want to highlight thickness. And sometimes on detailed commercial projects we want to know what the material is or the finish itself. So depending on what wording you'd like, you can add your own parameter or highlight finish and pick add and then pick OK. And so when you create here your door schedule, it will automatically pick up the parameters for that door. You'll see some of the parameters here in properties. So if the finish of the door is wood, and most of the time the floor finish and the door finishes are based on abbreviations, but for this example I'm just typing out the whole word. If I pick apply, then there's the finish in the schedule. When you select it in the schedule, you'll see that it's highlighted too. So if you add another door to this plan, then it will automatically pick up the last number that was used, and it will add it to the schedule. The same thing will apply to any windows that are placed. You can create a window, schedule fields for the width and the height and whatever other parameters that you'd like. In the project browser, let's highlight Sheets and then right click and pick New Sheet. We'll use this default 30 by 42, but if we wanted a different size, we could pick Load, and just to show you here, go to title blocks, and there are several title blocks here if you wanted a different size. I'm going to cancel out of this. So we're using this one here, 30 by 42. You can go ahead and pick OK. Here's the sheet, and now we want to use in the project browser these views to drag and drop onto the sheet. So I'm going to drag level 1 here and let go onto my sheet. And if you bring the level 1 onto the sheet and you have these elevation tags, you can right click and activate the view right in the sheet, and then select that elevation marker, right click and pick Hide in View Category, and it hides that category. So when you right click, you can deactivate the view. So you select the view, right click and activate, and then you right click to deactivate to bring it back here into the sheet. To change here this title, I want to highlight the view and use these small circular grips to make the title a little bit smaller, and then deactivate or click in space, click on this title and drag and drop it here underneath your drawing. Now notice that it's called level 1 because this is still called level 1. So if you wanted to highlight level 1, click on it, right click and go to rename, and when you rename it floor plan and pick OK, it'll ask you if you want to rename all the other levels and views that use that name, like the ceiling plan and everything else. You can pick yes, and the floor plan level 1 view changes to floor plan, and it's that also in the sheet. And it's also based on here, I want to show you this, the floor plan itself has a scale that's at the bottom left corner, and we're using an 1/8 inch, so it automatically places the 1/8 inch scale here in the sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and select it all and move it over a little bit more. Okay, now I can go to schedules and drag and drop my door schedule and my room finish schedule. You may have to move the floor plan over a little bit here. I'll just move it over, drag and drop it. Let's take a look at the floor plan. We'll maximize it so that it's the view that's showing. And in the Annotate tab, you'll see that there's a panel called Text. If you click on Text, the panel called Format will give you choices in what type of text to use, as far as whether you want a leader or not. And also look in the type selector, we're using a 1/4 inch Arial. So when I hold my left mouse button down and I drag my mouse across and I let go, I'm going to create text that's a 1/4 of an inch height, and that's based on an 1/8 inch scale. When you end the command by clicking in space here, you will still be in the option of placing text, so you can hold your left mouse button down and drag your mouse across to place another line of text. But this time, if you want to use a different size, you could use 3/32 of an inch. But what if you wanted an 1/8 inch? You could go ahead and click on Edit Type and pick Duplicate. And after you pick Duplicate, type in 1/8 inch. You could also add that it's Arial and pick OK. And then here is where you can change the text size to 1/8 inch. And you can change the font if you'd like. Make it bold and italics and underline here. But you just created a new text family that's based on an 1/8 inch text. Go ahead and pick OK. And now I have here the option of creating text as an 1/8 inch. Use your escape key to get out of those tools. And now if I wanted to add arrows to it, you could click on the text and see that in the format panel you have the option of adding here an arc or a straight line. So if I click on add left side leader, then you can see that it added this left side leader, and I can use these little ball like type grips to change the location of that leader. You can also select the text and change the alignment to center if you need to center the text within a space. If you double click, you can highlight here that text and change it to bold, italics, or underline. Also, instead of placing the text and then putting arrows on it, when you start the text option, you do have here these 6 buttons, these 6 icons which determine where the leader is: top left, middle left, bottom left. Or you can go ahead and click on this icon with the arrow next to the A, and what you're doing is you're clicking for the arrow location, and then you're going to click where you want the text. Use your escape key to end those tools. You go ahead and use your own text. This is an example to show you how to place tags and change room numbers, create schedules, and use some of these basic tools for placing tags and text. Now let's place a section. If we go to the View tab, we'll click on Section, and then let's create a section that goes through one of the doors. So if you click a point up here, pull your mouse straight through the door, all the way through, and click. And what you'll see is that there are several editing tools on this section when it's highlighted. So for instance, in your drawing, if you wanted to click on this little zigzag, it will break the section line. If you didn't want it to go through visually your drawing, you could use these little grips to back it away from your entire drawing and just have it at the top and the bottom. You can also use this small icon at the top, very top, next to the section HUD and the tail, the head and the tail, to cycle through the different types of heads that are available. We'll be customizing these as we look at more customization features in the Advanced Revit course. But here you can use these small arrows to change the direction of the section. And then if you double click on the actual section head, it will bring you to, if you click in space and then double click on the section head, it will bring you right to the section. The other option would be to go to the project browser and see that there is actually a new section created. We don't have a floor yet in this section, so let's go back to the floor plan. Double click on the floor plan in the project browser, go to the architecture tab, and let's go ahead and place a quick floor. We can click on floor architectural, and if you want to place a quick floor, you can go to the rectangle option in the draw panel here, and then just left click in the corners here at the top left and the bottom right, and then pick the green check mark, and you have your floor created. If we go back to the section now, you'll see that there's a floor in this this section. What I wanted to show you here is that if we type in VG in the section view, we can highlight walls, and then under cut patterns we can click on override and change here the way that the walls appear in this view. So the color, we'll click on here no override, can be maybe black, and then the pattern can be solid fill. By doing that for walls, and we'll do it for here the floors, highlight floors, click on cut patterns override, change this to a black color, and the pattern solid fill, and pick OK, and then pick OK again. You'll see that your section is starting to develop, and you have this solid black fill for the section. Now the way that we created our floor is we created it by clicking on the inside of the walls. If you wanted to have it come all the way out, you would have to click on the outside of the walls to pull it over, depending on if this was the foundation wall or what the structure of it was. So you could go back and edit the boundary of the floor plan if you'd like. For this example, what I'd like to show you is that if we go to the sheet now in the project browser, double click on that sheet, you'll see that the section doesn't have a number on it because the section isn't placed on a sheet yet. So we'll drag and drop the section onto our sheet, and by doing that you'll see right away that the numbers change because the plan by default is 1 and the section is 2, so this section number will automatically pick up the sheet number and the section. So here if I click on the sheet itself and then click on the sheet number, I'm going to change that to A-1 for A1, and click here in space and see that A1, and this will automatically update to section 2 on A1. So as you start to develop more sheets, the sections and details, the callouts will automatically coordinate each other throughout the sheets. Here I may have to right click and activate the view, and then click here on this, right click and hide that element so that I can right click and deactivate the view and get back into here the drawing and clean it up a little bit by dragging this title over underneath my drawing. In the floor plan view, if we wanted to add a column here, we could just go to column, and if you need a column that's architectural that might want to be placed here in the middle of the room, that's also an option, and it will actually add an enclosure, and that is actually a family. That's a family, so you can open that family and modify it to different column profiles. Here, let's click on structural column. And the main thing to notice is that when we place the structural column, so the depth of this column might be 9 feet or whatever the height is. And the height is going to be up to level 2. And we'll go ahead and put this in one of our corners here. You can see it. Normally, the grid lines go in the center of the column. We locked it, so I'm going to unlock it because I'd really like it to line up with this column. So if we use the Align tool, I can click on the center of this wall and then the column, and once I've unlocked that column, I'll be able to line it up with the column bubble. This one's already lined up. Okay, so I wanted to show you a little bit more about placing tags and creating schedules, using text and sections, and bringing that information into our sheet. You can also go ahead and put your name here in the title block. I also wanted to say that even after you place a schedule, you can click on it in the sheet and use these small arrows to change the width of the columns. Okay, save your file and post it to Blackboard. Let me know if you need any help or if you have any questions. I'm here to help you during and even after the class as you start to use Revit for your future projects.